Just talk about your recruitment. What was that like? Because, again, was it Spurrier that got you there, or was it Lou Holtz and the previous staff? How did you end up at South Carolina?
Never talked to Lou Holtz in high school. So, man, we had a good junior run at Concord, and I was starting to get some looks. A lot of D2 schools were offering, and I actually committed to Richmond pretty early on. And I remember back in those days on ESPN, I'd see Spurrier's face all the time. He had just been let go by the Redskins, and he jumped into the recruiting game really late. And so most quarterbacks, good quarterbacks, had already committed D1. And anyway, he called. And man, when Spurrier calls as a quarterback, you kind of drop what you're doing. And anyway, I committed almost immediately. We won the state championship my senior year. He told me he called and congratulated me the day that we won it, and said, I told our staff I was going to offer you, if you guys won the state championship, here's your offer. And then a couple of days later, I made the commitment. Had never even considered South Carolina, never been on campus, never been in Williams-Brice. So really committed there to go play for Spurrier. So yeah, it was interesting. I remember getting calls from Spurrier in high school, like during class, and feeling like I was the man, and actually walking out of a couple of classes to take them. So anyway, he brought in Cade Thompson shortly after I committed.
That's a name right there. A lot of people don't remember. I remember specifically in the spring game, Cade Thompson tearing it up.
Yeah, Cade was a great player, and he ended up transferring shortly after being there. But anyway, I was a little disappointed when they brought Cade on too, just because I knew I was going to have to be competing. Now, Blake Mitchell was there, and we may get to him in a little bit, but he was a stud. I had so much respect for Blake, and having to go through that transition and stepping up like he did. So anyway, that's the background.
Yeah, for sure. I'm curious. Again, you talk about Coach Spurrier, of course, and that relationship, and I'm sure there's so many layers to it, and I'm sure it evolved as you were on campus and competed for the job and eventually won the job at one point. What were those first interactions with Steve Spurrier like? Because, again, he is very, very tough on his quarterbacks. It's well noted. He demands perfection. He wants the absolute most out of you guys. What were just the first interactions with him? Was he a little bit different in recruiting versus when you got there? Is he just the same dude all the time, just classic Steve Spurrier?
No, he was the same. I mean, he was transparent. You knew what you were going to get. To understand my relationship with Spurrier, from my perspective, you'd have to understand my relationship with my high school coach, Easy Smith, kind of a legend in the area I grew up in. Concord hadn't won a state championship in 75 years before we did it my senior year, and Coach Smith had always been a running coach. Didn't want to throw the ball at all. Thought there was three things that could happen bad when you threw the ball, and only one bad thing that could happen when you run it. That was a fumble. But anyway, he didn't really, so Coach Smith didn't care how I got the job done. I mean, it was, as long as the pass was completed to the receiver. I never had in high school considered, I might want to throw this ball between two defenders as opposed to just, having a reception to a receiver. So, I came in a little bit behind. And, for a full year, Spurrier worked on my throwing motion with me. I mean, I had a wind up. I was a baseball player, pitcher, and so I had a wind up, and he really taught me the importance of getting the ball out as quick as you can. And so, I don't know that just because Spurrier got late, kind of got late to the recruiting game, how much he knew that he was going to have to work with me. And, some of the other quarterbacks that he recruited after me, Smelly and Garcia and Shaw, after, Shaw and I never crossed paths, but, a lot of those guys, they had quarterback coaching. They knew what they were doing. Even Cade, when Cade came in, he had a quick release, knew how to read defense. So anyway, I don't know that Spurrier knew what he was getting into when he recruited me. But man, I just kept trying to grind it out. He's transparent. I think he would admit, he's a bit of a jackass towards the quarterbacks. He holds us to a high standard. Right. So, our room of guys maybe thought of Spurrier a little bit differently than the rest of the guys did. But, man, what a genius. I learned a ton from him. I didn't have it quite up here for him. But anyway, it was all good.
Well, which is shocking to hear you say, because you're like a brainiac, right? Like, you're a really smart guy. Like in the classroom, I'm saying. I mean, I'm not, whatever. But you're a really smart guy. I come on, give yourself some credit. I feel like you're a pretty smart guy. Engineering, right? And what you didn't you do engineering?
Actuary mathematics.
See, I don't even exactly. So I'm just a humble podcaster, man. No need for those terms.